Welcome to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. I'm Mike Calabrese, joined today by Sean Zerillo, and later in this episode, we'll have Grant Neiffer with his home run card as well. We're going to look at the entire slate here in the bigs for Monday. We got 8 plays from Sean, so let's get right into it. Let's start with your best bet here on Monday, Sean. The Astros and the Marlins, looking at a total under 8.5. The Astros' grip on the AL West is loosening. Big part of that has been the injuries and their bats going cold. It was the real reason why they were just swept up in Beantown. 5 times in the last 8 games, they've scored just 1 run. We get George Costanza, aka Jason Alexander, on the bump, and he's been insanely hot and cold for Houston as well. Any other thoughts leading you to the under here? And would you slide down to 8 if the number was right in terms of the juice?
Yeah, I like the under to 8 at minus 105. I make this total closer to 7.6. You can still grab some under 8.5s right now. Obviously, the Marlins have been red hot, getting to 500 for the first time since April. And this team could be, emphasis on could be, a very, very, very long shot wild card team at this point. I think their playoff chances at best are about 2.5%. But God forbid this team makes it in the playoffs. You can throw out a rotation of Sandy, Yuri Perez, and Edward Cabrera, maybe Max Meyer is even back by that point in time. I'm not sure what injury Max Meyer is dealing with, but this Marlins team is starting to look a little bit fun, especially for 2026. The young offense really come together. Augustin Ramirez starting to get some NL Rookie of the Year buzz, but they held on to Sandy and they held on to Edward Cabrera, who they have under team control for at least a couple of more seasons. They have a player option or a club option on Sandy through 2027. And the command has come back and met up with the stuff. It's something that we talked about all season earlier in the year, especially the stuff had come back for Sandy. The stuff, the velocity had come back to pre-injury levels. The command was just lacking. And he had a 4.6% strikeout minus walk rate through May, an ERA of 8.5, expected FIP of 4.9. Over the past 2 months, you've seen the location plus number improve from 93 to 105. The walk rate and the strikeout minus walk rate basically half. Strikeout minus walk rate from 4.6% to 11.5%. Pitching plus up from 101 to 111. Bot ERA down from 4.1 to 3.5. So the stuff and the command finally lining up for Sandy over the past 2 months. He has pitched significantly better. And as a result, I would imagine the ask for him at the trade deadline was peak value, was Cy Young Sandy value, because he's starting to progress back towards that level. And the Marlins said, hey, we have a competitive team for next year. If we just hold on to these guys, let's just go ahead and not deal any of them. And the Astros, on the other hand, all the injuries they've dealt with, they had to go out and make moves at the deadline. And frankly, bringing in Carlos Correa does nothing for me. Correa, I think, is one of the most overrated players in the sport. At this point, he's been a negative defender, not even just a negative defender. He's been one of the worst defensive shortstops over the past couple of years. He's also now a below average hitter, a 96 WRC plus versus 125 career. Now, the Astros did move him from short to third. It should help him become more of a league average defender at third base. He still has a very good arm. It's really just the range and the knees that are an issue at this point. So he should be a good third baseman, but he's still a below average hitter. And if you can have a 96 WRC plus at shortstop, fine. At third base, that's a below average hitter at a negative tier lineup. So I think the Astros or the Yankees are going to miss the playoffs. I will maintain this. I think one of them is going to collapse here in the next couple of months and miss the playoffs. They're already starting to do it, frankly, over the past week, these two teams. But yeah, I'm low on this Astros offense right now. I've been low against them righties all season. I mean, this is the number 2 offense against lefties, number 20 against righties. And over the last 30 days, they've dropped to 28th against right-handed pitching with a 90 WRC plus. So yeah, this Astros offense really struggles to score runs at the moment. Their bullpen's still good, and Alexander is a functional, capable back-end starter, but I really like Sandy to suppress the Astros here and for the Marlins to keep this rolling and get it by 500, but under 8, my best bet on this game. Under 8.5 down to 8 at minus 108.
Turning from a team in the AL West to a pair in the NL West for your favorite underdog segment, let's look at the Diamondbacks at plus money against the Padres. It wouldn't be an episode of Payoff Pitch if we weren't talking about Brandon Pfaadt and had some kind of play on him. I feel like every single start, we at least have something in the action app when it comes to him. The common thread for his most recent success has been command. He's been walking far less batters than he was earlier in the season. Three of his last four starts have been walk free, and two of those turned into gems. But you're willing to step in front of this Padres train that has won seven of their last eight, and they just acquired JP Sears. Do you like to trade long term when it comes to Sears? And if so, why fade him and start number one?
I think Sears is interesting because the projections and the underlying indicators say he's a replacement level starter. He's maintained an expected ERA of around 4, but his ERA is higher than that. His career ERA, expected FIP, both higher than that. Expected FIP of 4.7 this year, 484 career. So the only thing that says that he is closer to a 4 in terms of a pitcher's expected ERA, and sometimes guys do tend to outperform that number, and everything else kind of lines up with their ERA. And Sears seems to fit in that profile. Even projections, rest of the season, have him between a 4.6 and a 4.9 FIP projection. Like nowhere near 4. Everybody says he's closer to 5. So taking an average and an aggregate of the projections and weighting it out, unless you're just solely emphasizing that expected ERA for Sears, it's tough to get him below a number 4 starter. And Fott, you look at the season long numbers for Fott, they're miserable. He's been much better. He's been what you would expect for the past couple months. So through June 5th, Fott had a strikeout minus walk rate of 12%, 97 pitching plus. Body ERA had gone up near 4. He's always been a great pitch modeling guy. Since early June, his past 9 starts, I believe, 3.7 expected FIP, 18% strikeout minus walk, 104 pitching plus, 3.5 body array. Exactly what you expect Brandon Pfaadt to be. Compare that to his career numbers. As I said, 3.7 expected FIP, 3.9 career, 18% strikeout minus walk, 17% career, 104 pitching plus, 105 career, 3.5 body array, 3.25 career. Again, earlier in the year, it was closer to 4. So I think you've seen some changes from Brandon Pfaadt. He's also just pitching a little bit more confidently, but he's changed his pitch mix. In that data set that I mentioned since early June, I think it was June 5th was when he made his final start with his old pitch mix and then started changing things. He's dropped his four seam usage by 10%. He's reallocated it to a cutter. He hasn't thrown a cutter previously. He's now throwing a cutter about 12% of the time. And he's also throwing his sinker more. So he's gone sinker slider heavy and mixed in a cutter and scrapped his four seam fastball. And the results have improved fairly dramatically. Stop throwing your worst pitch. Stop getting your worst results because you're not throwing your worst pitch as much. Get better results as a result. I think it's a pretty simple and straightforward change to change up the pitch mix and get better results because of it. But the command has also improved too. And yeah, I just view Fott as the better pitcher than JP Sears. And I think the D-backs, the motivation thing is what concerns me here. Like the D-backs over the past week, you look at their runs per game until yesterday, they were scoring 3 runs, 1 run, 2 runs, 1 run, 5 runs. Since they started trading Naylor and Suarez, you can almost see in their runs scored per game, like the lack of motivation from the team. They're just like, all right, our season's over. That's it. Pack it up. They did actually score yesterday. Obviously, the Padres are, as motivated as anybody to play well the rest of the way, considering they have the NL West in their sights right now. But yeah, I make this game about even money, and I like the D-backs down to plus 110 here at home against the red hot Padres. I just think the market a little bit overweight towards San Diego at the moment, considering all the trade deadline acquisitions and how they're trending. And they can still win the division. I just think they're a little bit overvalued for Monday slate.
You're doing double duty here in the underdog section of your card. You also like the Rangers in the plus 130 neighborhood against the Yankees. After losing 3 of 4 to Seattle, I mean, it's a bit alarmist to say this is do or die time for the Rangers, but look at who they're looking up at in the wild card race. The Yankees and the M's. So here come the Yankees, and thankfully for them, the Rangers at least get them on their home diamond. They have the best record in the AL West at home from a percentage basis. But then you look at the head-to-head pitching matchup, and if you told me in April that you'd be firing on Patrick Corbin over Max Fried at this price point, I would have a lot of questions. But as we know, Fried has really struggled this past month. Is the market too slow to react to what he looks like now vis-a-vis where he was in the spring, in your opinion?
It's possible. He may just be injured or he's dealing with a blister. So we know at minimum he has a blister he's dealing with. But I do think the forearm injury that he dealt with last year that put him on the IL, forearm neuritis, which you look at his game logs from last year, his walk rate was the highest it's been in a long time. And now over the past month, that walk rate is coming up into similar territory. His walk rate last year was near 9%. His walk rate in July, 9.4%. And compared to earlier in the season, he's wearing down. I mean, all year, Fried has been lucky. So Fried has maintained a 260 BABIP this season, 291 career, and that's with the Yankees not playing the best defense behind him. He's just been a little bit fortunate. Now, to go like all the way back, the Yankees took him on, made some changes to his pitch mix. There's a reason why he pitched better this year and why guys were not getting what they expected out of him, out of his hand hitters, opposing hitters. He was doing some things differently. So that helped Max Fried pitch super well early. Also, just general, a little bit lucky. The luck is starting to catch up with him. The Yankees are not as good defensively as they were earlier in the year, though Brian McMahon at third base helps a little bit. But also their offense. It's not even just the Fried thing and like the command going down and the location plus numbers going down and the potential injury red flags. Without Aaron Judge, the Yankees are arguably a below average offense. Since Judge has been out, they have a 97 WRC plus as a team. That's 17th in baseball without him. I pointed to the samples a couple of years ago last week where without him, they ranked as a bottom 10 offense. This is a different group, but overall, you remove Judge from this lineup. It's tough to project the Yankees as a top 10 offense, and I think you can argue they're a below average, 16th or below without him. So he makes a humongous difference not being in there. And then the last piece, obviously Patrick Corbin going for the Rangers. The Rangers are the number one team defensively in baseball by a couple of different metrics. Number one by defensive runs saved, fourth by outs above average. Yankees, a bottom 10 team. They're 21st in OAA. They're 11th in DRS, but I project them as a below average defensive team. And then lastly, the Texas lineup too, also as healthy as it has been all year. They are better against righties than lefties, so Fried does put them in their lesser split. But this offensive group with Young back, Seager hitting as well as he has all year, it's just they haven't had their full group together in a while. It's part of the reason why they've played much better over the past month. And the Yankees obviously missing pieces, banged up, and the bullpen is not trustworthy, nor had they figured out what roles those guys are going to get yet. So I think you could see a chaotic game here between the Yankees and Rangers late once these starters come out, once the bullpens come in. I don't think either bullpen is trustworthy. I think Garcia may still be banged up for the Rangers as well. But Texas blew 2 ninth-inning leads, I believe, against the Mariners in that series, and then also blew some leads in extra innings as well. I'm glad to see our M's pull away. But like I said, if the Yankees or Astros, if one of them is going to miss, it necessitates that the Rangers are the team who hops them. So this is a very key series for Texas against the team that they are directly in competition with for probably the final wild card spot. So yeah, give me Texas in game one. I make them about plus 115. I'd bet them down to plus 125. And then we'll see where we're at for the remainder of this series. But I do think the Yankees are a team to continue to look for ways to bet against at the moment, whether it is on a game-to-game basis or in the futures market potentially.
Football season is here, folks, and we've got some huge improvements and updates coming to the award-winning Action Network app, which we're very excited to discuss in the coming weeks. But to get the most out of the app, you'll still need to be an Action Pro subscriber. It's only with Action Pro that you get real-time pick alerts from me, Sean, and the entire Action Network team of experts. Plus, you can get access to the Pro projections, which are powered by Sean Kerner and his predictive analytics team, plus a million other benefits. And right now, if you go to Action Network and listen in as a podcast listener, you're already a part of a special promotion. You can get $20 off the annual price of Action Pro. That's right. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and use promo code Payoff20. That's actionnetwork.com/pro. Use code Payoff20 for $20 off the annual price of Action Pro. Before we get into Grant's home run props, we have a whole bunch of other plays on your card here, Sean. Let's start with the Cubs as a minus 135 favorite. Michael Soroka making his first start for the Cubbies. I know we just faded a freshly traded starter earlier in this episode. You're going in the opposite direction here against the Reds. Do you see him factoring into this Cubs rotation as a fourth or fifth starter beyond just being an innings eater as this rotation gets healthy?
Yeah, he might be their number 2 starter. Which is not great for the Cubs, but I think in the same respect, I do think Soroka is a little bit underrated. I guess I'd put him number three right now behind Boyd and Shota, even though Shota's been a little bit down this year. But yeah, I mean, Soroka ERA near five, but a 3.3 expected ERA. The Nationals, one of the worst defensive teams in baseball, also one of the worst bullpens. And I can tell you from personal experience, there were several starts where Soroka left the game in the fifth or sixth inning with runners on base, and the Nationals bullpen did not hold those runners in. So not all of those runs came as a result of him. That's not to say that the Cubs bullpen gives me much more confidence than the Nationals bullpen does, even after adding, was it Kittredge? Like they made one move to upgrade that bullpen. Doesn't do a ton for me. At least Ryan Presley is not there anymore because I could not sweat another Cubs bet with Ryan Presley coming out of the bullpen. My least favorite guy to watch pitch this season. But the Cubs, I think the Cubs are just a much better team, much better lineup offensively and defensively than the Reds. That is the large driver of my projection here, aside from Soroka and Lodolo being more comparable than their ERAs would suggest. I mean, there's a run apart in their ERAs. Soroka actually has the better expected ERA. He's at 3.33, Lodolo at 3.60. Lodolo better expected FIP, but their strikeout minus walk rate basically the same, both around 18%, 19%. So similar starting pitchers. Overall, the Cubs lineup, though, second versus 23rd in WRC plus, second versus 19th in DRS, fourth versus 16th in outs above average. I think the Cubs have the best offense in the National League. Looking at the updated rest of season oopsie projections, Jordan also has the Cubs as the number one offense in the National League. I think he has the Mets at number two, or he might have them 1-2 the other direction. Seattle, by the way, number one offense in the American League the rest of the way. Something that we assumed would be the case based upon what we see on paper when you actually project out their players the rest of the way. Based upon batted ball metrics, Seattle comes out number one. So the Cubs are going to have to slug their way to the World Series. I do not trust their pitching still. I think Soroka does give them a capable third starter, and something I haven't talked about on this pod yet that we will talk about more as the playoffs get closer. The NL schedule for the playoffs, the NLDS, allows you to roll over your ones and twos on full rest in games 4 and games 5. If you get that first round bye, you only need 3 starting pitchers in the NLDS to get through it on full rest. So having 3 guys you're somewhat confident in is actually enough in the National League, assuming Shota, Soroka, and Boyd all make it to the postseason. But in terms of today's game, I make the Cubs about minus 160, would bet their money line up to minus 145, even closer to minus 150. And then hopefully the Reds have a little bit of jet lag coming back from that miserable experience at the Speedway Classic in Tennessee, because that was some absolute scenes on Saturday night watching that flooded field trying to get baseballs fielded on it. Just like, I mean, they looked like they were playing on a playground in middle school. It was absolutely ridiculous field conditions.
Rays make a cross-country trip to play the Angels. They are going off as a slight dog here. Let's keep this newly acquired theme going, though. Adrian Hauser in from the White Sox. He appears to be having a career year, and I assume you like that to continue.
Yeah, I love what the Rays are always doing. The Rays are always buying and selling, right? You're waiting for the Griffin Jax news on trade deadline day, and after the Rays have already traded away Zach Littell and Caballero and Danny Jansen, they're like, actually, we just traded for Griffin Jax and Adrian Hauser. And Adrian Hauser is a 1-year rental and will be a free agent at season's end. So what are the Rays doing? Just buying undervalued assets. And I would imagine they will try to re-sign Adrian Hauser for cheap in the exclusive negotiation window that they will have. Clearly, I mean, you never make a trade with the Rays, but if the Rays trade for somebody, you should probably hold a higher opinion of them than you did previously. And I already had a heightened opinion of Hauser this year because he has a career high fastball velocity. He's throwing 90, or not career high, but a multi-season high fastball velocity, throwing 95.1, 94.1 for his career. He was at 93.6 and 93.4 the past 2 seasons. So the velo up 1.5 miles per hour for Adrian Hauser this year. His expected ERA below 4. It's never been below 4.12. He's at 3.97 this season. 4.18 body ERA. He's never been below 4.41 previously. So improved velocity. I think Adrian Hauser has serious potential to be a big contributor for the Rays the rest of the way. And not just, the improved velocity being a thing. The Rays always get their hands on guys and then modify their pitch mixes and pitch approach as well. So I think you're going to see an optimized version of Adrian Hauser throwing harder than he's thrown the past 2 years down the stretch of the season, and his numbers have already been pretty good. I make the Rays about minus 102 here. I like them down to plus 105 going against Yusei Kikuchi and the Angels. Rays still have, as much to play for the rest of the way as the Angels do, arguably. I think they're in similar position record-wise and percentage of making the playoffs. Chance-wise, neither have a particularly big shot, but yeah, I think the Rays will stay competitive the rest of the way as they typically do and annoy teams and maybe play spoiler down the stretch here. But I think Hauser's an underappreciated asset to keep your eyes on.
Your last three unders are all sitting at 8.5. Let's start with the Giants and Buccos, bottom two teams in the NL in terms of average, but we do get Verlander on the bump for the Giants. Would this be a best bet for you without Verlander starting? Because his blow-up potential is evident. His ERA from July alone was 5.40.
Yeah, I don't like Verlander, and he scares the crap out of me, in terms of betting an under, as does Oviedo, frankly, because Oviedo, on Oviedo for the Pirates, he's making his first start back from a lat injury this year. I don't think he pitched in the big leagues last year either, but these are two bad offenses against right-handed pitching, 16th, 28th, respectively, Giants and Pirates on the season, and two good bullpens. The Pirates bullpen is kind of underrated, even after trading David Bednar. Last 30 days, Pirates 6th in expected FIP, Giants 10th. Giants also trading Duvall and Rogers. So, weakened bullpens compared to what they were previously, but still project as above average units overall, which is something that's kind of odd to say for the Pirates in general. Usually they have pretty terrible pitching, but yeah, I make this total about 8. So under 8.5 to minus 110 is a contrarian under, I would imagine, between the Giants and Pirates. Yeah, Verlander, though, last start, 7 strikeouts, no walks, I believe. So hopefully he can keep that going in his final few months, likely as a major league pitcher.
Another under 8.5. Let's look at the Guardians and Mets. Sean Manaea's oblique and elbow injuries appear to be completely in the rearview mirror. Each start since returning, he's upped his pitch count. It started at 65 in his 2025 debut, up to 86 pitches last week in his last start. A few command issues, but outside of that, let's be honest, he's looked great, particularly coming off of the injured list. So what are you expecting from him here against this Guardians lineup?
Yeah, I think Manaea is back. 27% strikeout minus walk. He was at last year. He started breaking out late in July. July 30th was when he started the sidewinder motion and changed his approach and started striking out 10 guys a game. Down the stretch last year, after July 30th, 22% strikeout minus walk. Brief sample this year, 26.5%. So I think Manaea is back to where he was down the stretch last year. He has a 2.9 ERA since July 30th of last year, pitching in ace territory. Slate Ciccone, very interesting to me. He just keeps going deep into starts for the Guardians. He works really quickly, but he's gone through this. He's been into the seventh inning in 4 of his past 7 starts, just keeps pitching deep into these starts, and he's not even giving up runs until the second or third time, or till the third time through the order. That's really where he's getting in trouble. So I like how quick Ciccone works. Hopefully that is keeping the Mets off balance tonight. Doesn't walk guys either. That's really his main strength, his command. I make this total about 7.6, under 8 to minus 108, like my best bet. As well, same price target, betting it at under 8.5 and like it down to 8 at minus 108.
All right, let's finish out your card here for Monday with another under 8.5 between Milwaukee and Atlanta. I love how Quinn Priester has looked this season. The 24-year-old has double-digit strikeout upside anytime that he takes the hill, and as his ground ball percentage has risen, his ERA has been on the decline. But as I like to say, it takes 2 to tango on a total, and Fede scares the crap out of me. He got treated like a piñata during his last month with the Redbirds. Maybe a change of scenery is good for him, but talk me through how you're viewing his impact on this total, and if he is out there for 5 or 6 innings, how many runs do you expect he's going to give up?
Yeah, I didn't want to bet this total. I did everything in my power not to bet this total. We have very atypical weather here in Atlanta for August. Um, it's going to be 69 degrees at first pitch today in Atlanta in August. I don't know what's happening in the southeastern United States, but that seems bizarre to me. But in addition to it being chillier, much, much, much chillier than normal for an August day, we're also going to have 9 to 10 mile an hour winds blowing in from left field. So I went on Action Labs because to me, this was bizarre. And I said, since 2005, how many times has a game been played in Truist Park in temperatures under 7 degrees in July and August? The answer is 44 games. The under is 28, 16, and 1 to the under. 21.5% ROI to the under. Now, all games in July and August, in temperatures below 70 degrees, all time, 53.7% win rate to the under, 3.5% ROI. If you also include in those colder games the wind blowing in from either straight, center, or left, or straight, left, or right, under moves up to 54.7%, 6% ROI. I just think this is a very weird weather and wind circumstance for the month of August to have temperatures below 70 degrees, regardless of the fact that Eric Fede is pitching, who can still give up home runs. But having 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in on top of that really reduces the run scoring environment for me here. Normally, on a normal day, weather neutral day in Atlanta, I would make this total about 8.6. Today, I make it closer to 8. No Acuna for the Braves. That moves them down to about a league average offense without him. They're 14th. They were 14th before he came back this year, a 99 WRC plus. I think they project outside of the top 10 without him. Also, these teams are really strong defensively. Atlanta's third in DRS, eighth in OAA. Milwaukee's 12th in DRS, third in OAA, but they both project as top 10 defensive teams for me. So yeah, the under 8.5, I make this total 8.02, under 8.5 to -110. It could be sweaty. Hopefully Fede gets out of there relatively unscathed through 5 or 6, giving up no more than 3 or 4 runs over the time he's in there. But yeah, this is a rare, and I don't want to say unique, but it's a rare weather circumstance in Atlanta for a game being played in August that I thought really stood out today. And despite my wishes and desires not to bet an Eric Fede under, I really had no choice given the weather.
Before we get out of here, let's toss over to Grant Neiffer of Scores and Odds, satelliting in from the great state of Wyoming to bring us some of his favorite home run props for today.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, over here in Wyoming, but they got gambling, and I got some bangers right here. Got a three-leg for you, 90 or plus 9,300 over at MGM. Let's get started with the first leg, Junior Caminero plus 350. This is not a terribly high line, but it's far too high given the matchup. He's going up against Kikuchi, who started off the year pretty good. For most of the season, was not allowing nearly the amount of home runs he's been allowing in the past, but kind of fallen off recently. Owns a 1.43 home run per nine to righties on the year, which is drastically lower than his 1.61 overall for his career. But he's going back to the pitcher we've seen before, who's been an absolute gas can for righty power. Caminero, great home run hitter, some of the fastest bat speed in the league. Yes, the park's a little bit of a downgrade for him playing over in LA. The weather is just mediocre, but the matchup versus Kikuchi is more than good enough to make up for that. Caminero plus 350, a bit too high. Next up, we got Vlad plus 375, playing over in Coors. And I know Vlad's disappointed us many times this year. Doesn't seem to have the same power he had in the past. Barrel rate shows he's due for some positive regression, but regression never comes. I don't really care in this spot. It's a matchup versus Gordon. Gordon has been better at suppressing power this season, but last year got absolutely crushed by righties, giving up over 3 home runs per nine in an 8-game sample size. He grades out as a plus matchup for righty power, even though it's just moderately plus matchup. I don't really care because the ballpark is fantastic for power, obviously. Wind, 14 miles an hour, blowing out to left field. 88 degrees here. The ball is going to be flying in the spot, over a 20% increase to home runs, according to Weather Edge. So getting Vlad at plus 375 going up against Gordon in that ballpark with that weather is a plus matchup here, and I still like it even at lower than normal odds. Last up, Big Meat Pete plus 340. Alonso's been playing great ball recently. 2 home runs in the last 3 games. Gets a matchup versus Slade, who's been crushed by righty power so far in his career. Grades out as a big plus matchup. Weather is good over in New York. 5-mile-an-hour wind blowing, slightly crossing, slightly out, but 84 degrees, 11.8% increase to home runs, according to Weather Edge. So overall, a great spot for hitting. Great matchup for Alonso. Decent odds here. I'm taking him considering his recent form. So parlay all three of them together, get 93 to 1 odds. It's a good one. I'm out of here.
That'll do it for today's episode of Payoff Pitch. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to tail some of the bets that you heard from Sean or Grant, look for the quick slip links in the episode description. Don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app and leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to the podcast. Also, check out the Action Network Discord. There's a link in the episode description to sign up for that as well. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Payoff Pitch. For Sean Zerillo and Grant Neiffer, I'm Mike Calabrese. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. And as always, best of luck with all your bets.